Brady is perhaps the best quarterback that's ever lived. But what if things were, say, a little different? Perhaps the GOAT landed in a different city. How might have things turned out?
Let me throw out a team and a destination that I think fits for Brady. The Indianapolis Colts.
Brady's Super Bowl 55 triumph with the Bucs has us thinking, how many other mediocre teams could he have led to a championship? We came up with a total of 8. So, let's dive right into it. Indianapolis Colts. The Colts led the NFL with 7 Pro Bowl selections in 2021. And yet, in some way, they managed to miss out on the postseason. Carson Wentz's struggles and so-called lack of leadership greatly affected the Colts even though they won 9 games. He committed brutal turnovers at costly times and of course imploded in a must-win game versus the league's worst squad, the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 18. There's a case to be made that Frank Reich's Colts are more well-balanced than the Super Bowl team Tom Brady has enjoyed in Tampa Bay. I mean, their offensive line is as good as it gets with Braden Smith, Quentin Nelson, and Ryan Kelly. Jonathan Taylor ran away with the rushing title, and Indy's defense forced 33 takeaways during the 2021 season. How would Brady possibly fail? A top-tier line, a rushing champion, Michael Pittman, and a takeaway-happy and opportunistic defense? Yeah, the Colts' long-term arch-nemesis would have totally done something special there. Wentz wasn't a horrible quarterback by any means for the Colts, but his limitations certainly played a factor in the team missing the postseason. It's no wonder they gave up on him after 1 year by dealing him to the Washington Commanders, before swinging a trade for Atlanta Falcons legend Matt Ryan. Imagine if the Colts won a Super Bowl with both Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. New Orleans Saints. The funny thing is, Tom Brady to New Orleans was actually somewhat close to happening. There was mutual interest there, but it was only a possibility if Drew Brees retired. The future Hall of Famer, however, decided to come back to NOLA for one final season. That took the Saints off the board of potential suitors for Brady, and he wound up joining the NFC South rival Bucs instead. On one hand, the Saints had to stay loyal to Brees, who was still playing at a high level entering 2020. But Brady's Bucs wound up eliminating New Orleans in the divisional round en route to a Super Bowl 55 title. Surely several New Orleans fans do kinda wish that Brees retired in 2020, or that they had landed Brady. I mean, the 43-year-old version of Brady was far better than the banged-up past its prime version of Brees we saw in his final season. In other words, New Orleans could have totally won the Super Bowl in 2020 if they had Brady. They would have cruised to NFC South Division crowns in 2020 and 2021 as a Saint. There would have been no competition whatsoever. New Orleans won 9 games in 2021 despite having to use 4 different starting QBs. If they had had Brady, they would have easily won 12-plus games, the division title, and very possibly another Super Bowl. But instead, Brady stands as New Orleans' main stumbling block to regain NFC South supremacy. I guess it would have been a little too unfair for New Orleans to go from one all-time passing yards and passing touchdowns leader to another. Washington Commanders. The Commanders have been in quarterback purgatory ever since Mark Rypien left town in 1994. Sure, they've had brief flashes in the pan like Jason Campbell, Robert Griffin III, and Kirk Cousins, but no superstar-level long-term QBs. Not that the Commanders were ever serious contenders for Brady, but what if Washington magically found a way to bring Brady in? I mean, TB12 probably wouldn't ever have interest in playing for Dan Snyder unless the latter gave him a very generous ownership stake. And hey, one can dream. This would be a very enticing fit for the GOAT in more ways than one. Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas, and Antonio Gibson would give him a nice set of weapons to start with. But surely, Brady's arrival would prompt Washington to load up with even more offensive firepower. And then, of course, Brady would be supported by a top-level defense consisting of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Daron Payne, and Jonathan Allen. So Brady could lean on his D if he ever had an off day. But trust us, he doesn't have many of those. Then there's the whole luxury of playing in the weak NFC East. Brady would mop up the competition and lead the Commanders to multiple division crowns, and surely at least one Super Bowl championship. It'll never happen, but Brady and Ron Rivera would have certainly been a fun pair to watch. Carolina Panthers. Sure, Carolina has been an afterthought ever since injuries derailed Cam Newton's prime years back in 2018. But make no mistake, this team would be a prime Super Bowl contender with a top-level quarterback. Brady has worked with a lot of great running backs throughout his career, but not somebody like Christian McCaffrey. TB12 and Run CMC in the same offense would be absolutely unfair for the rest of the league, but it wouldn't stop there. DJ Moore would be a top 10 receiver in the game with Brady throwing him the ball, and maybe the up and down play of Robbie Anderson would be, well, consistently up if Brady was his quarterback. Also, adding Brady would mean the Panthers enter win now mode, so Matt Rule and company would surely add more weapons to accommodate him. And then you move over to the defensive side of the ball. The Panthers surrendered the second fewest yards in 2021. Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, Dante Jackson, and JC Horn round out a very promising young group. And then there's the whole NFC South thing again. Brady and Carolina would leave no serious challengers for the division crown, giving Carolina a bunch of easy victories within the division. Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, and Cam Newton's second stint in Carolina didn't dig this franchise out of its hole at quarterback. Too bad, because Brady in the fold, the Panthers be hosting quite the championship parade in downtown Raleigh. The Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks previously had one of the game's best quarterbacks in Russell Wilson, but that all changed when they decided to ship him off to the Denver Broncos for a huge package of picks and players this offseason. That leaves the Seahawks looking for their next franchise QB. But could you imagine if they found a way to add Brady to the mix? The GOAT would have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Noah Fant to throw the ball to. Plus, you get to play for the ultimate players coach in Pete Carroll. Yes, there would be problems on the offensive line and defense, but bringing in Brady would spell win now mode, meaning GM John Schneider would have to be aggressive in fixing up the rest of the roster. For whatever reason, Schneider and Carroll weren't willing to give Wilson any real input when it came to roster personnel. But if they brought in Brady, you'd have to assume it would be a totally different story. And so, less than a decade after breaking the hearts of the Seahawks in Super Bowl 49, Brady makes up for it by giving his final few seasons to the people of the Emerald City. Then he and Carroll accomplished what Wilson and Carroll could not by bringing the city its second Super Bowl championship. Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins were linked to the Brady sweepstakes in 2020, and then there was a crazy rumor floating around that they would trade for him following his decision to come out of retirement in 2020. But obviously, that didn't happen. Will Tua Tagovailoa, the number 5 selection of the 2020 draft, ever become the guy in Miami? Well, the jury's still out. I mean, the talent level is there. His win-loss record doesn't lie, but the game-to-game stats haven't been great by any means. The Dolphins missed out on the postseason in 2020 and 2021, despite finishing with winning records both years. That was largely thanks to their takeaway-happy defense and the play of their skill position guys like Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker, and Mike Gesicki. If the Dolphins had consistency at quarterback, though, they would have been a playoff team both those years. Well, actually, maybe a Super Bowl contender and potential winner by now. Brady already won his Super Bowl without Bill Belichick. Imagine if he finished his career in South Beach, bullied the Patriots twice a year, and then won another championship with one of New England's arch rivals. Oh, that'd be a storybook ending, alright. It is no wonder Miami was seemingly keen on adding Brady in 2020. They knew he would have served as the difference maker this franchise needed, and honestly, one that they deserve. Or, maybe Tua time arrives and puts the Brady to Miami rumors to bed forever. Minnesota Vikings. For the past 30 years or so, the Vikings have had a problem that's both been good and bad. And that problem is stellar, but not elite quarterback play. On one hand, it's very nice to have above-average quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater, Randall Cunningham, and Dante Culpepper to keep you competitive and out of the NFL basement. On the other hand, above-average QB play isn't enough to win Super Bowls most years. And because the quarterback production isn't awful enough, the Vikings never get high-end draft picks to land a can't-miss prospect like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, or Joe Burrow. While Cousins keeps the Vikings in playoff contention, he just isn't good enough to lead them to a Super Bowl. So what if Minnesota had the GOAT instead to command their offense? Maybe that gets them out of the NFL purgatory. Brady would put up MVP-like numbers in an offense consisting of superstars Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Dalvin Cook. take Cousins' sad career record against teams with winning records and replace them with the NFL's all-time winningest QB? Now we're talking about a Super Bowl championship team. There would be questions along that Minnesota defense, but it wouldn't have to be elite with Brady leading the way. And again, the Vikings front office would have made the necessary moves to help their new franchise quarterback win now. Minnesota hasn't made the Super Bowl since the 1976 season. Indianapolis St. Paul has suffered a ton of sports heartbreak in the 21st century, but adding Brady would have changed all of that. Going from the NFL's golden franchise and the Patriots to perhaps the most heartbroken franchise and leading them to their first Super Bowl, that would have only added to the illustrious legacy of Tom Brady. Cleveland Browns. The Browns haven't had a true superstar quarterback since the Bernie Kosar days, and that was over 3 decades ago. When it came to the draft, Cleveland struck out on Tim Couch, Brady Quinn, Brandon Weeden, and Johnny Manziel. They helped Baker Mayfield be their guy when they took him first overall in 2018, but after 4 inconsistent seasons, the Browns decided to upgrade.
Come on out, you rapist!
And so they made the controversial trade for Houston Texans Pro Bowler Deshaun Watson, giving him a 5-year, fully guaranteed $230 million contract. Cleveland believes that the simple QB upgrade will finally help them reach perennial Super Bowl contention. Now, only time will tell, but if the Browns had just found a way to land Brady back in 2020, well, they wouldn't have had to rely on such a controversial player to help them win a championship. Brady would have a star-studded offensive line. Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Austin Hooper, Odell Beckham Jr., and the league's top rushing duo in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Surely, Brady would have been on the same page with both OBJ and Landry, meaning Cleveland wouldn't have had to eventually release both players from their contracts. And then they throw in the suffocating defense led by Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and hey, this Browns team would have had all the makings to win a Super Bowl. But which other mediocre NFL team would win a Super Bowl if they had Tom Brady? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.